You're walking through a desolate landscape, the sky a deep, foreboding gray that seems to suffocate the life out of everything. The air is heavy with the scent of rain, a smell that's both refreshing and ominous. The ground beneath your feet is dry and cracked, like the earth is thirsty for a drop of water. You've been searching for what feels like an eternity, and the only sound is the soft crunch of gravel beneath your feet, a reminder that you're not alone in this journey. Suddenly, a figure appears in the distance, a woman, kneeling in the dirt, her hands clasped together in desperate prayer. You can't help but feel drawn to her, as if her cry is echoing deep within your own soul. What is she praying for? What is she searching for? The wind picks up, and her words are carried away, but you sense the depth of her longing, a longing that's both heartbreaking and relatable. You feel the weight of her desperation, the ache in her heart, and the tears that well up in her eyes. You wonder, what would you do if you were in her shoes? Would you cry out to God, or would you try to find a way out on your own? As you watch her, you notice the way the sunlight filters through the clouds, casting a faint glow over the landscape. The sky is a deep shade of gray, but it's not just a dull, lifeless color, it's a complex mix of blues and greens, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's always a glimmer of hope. The woman's eyes are closed, her face tilted upwards, and her lips are moving in silent prayer. You sense the depth of her faith, the trust she has in God, and the desperation that drives her to cry out to Him. You feel a pang of recognition, a sense that you've been in her shoes before, that you've cried out to God in your own times of need. And you begin to wonder, what is God's response to her cry? Is He distant and unresponsive, or is He near, waiting to comfort her? You find yourself in the midst of a bustling city, the sounds of merchants and traders filling the air. People rush past, their faces etched with worry and concern, each one with their own story, their own struggles, and their own fears. The woman from the desert landscape is now standing in the crowd, her eyes scanning the horizon as if searching for a glimpse of hope, a glimmer of light in the darkness. You see the weight of her responsibilities, the pressure to provide for her family, the fear of not being enough, and the anxiety that grips her heart. She's a widow, struggling to make ends meet, and the scriptures echo in her mind, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit," Psalm 34 verse 18. But in this moment, those words feel like a distant memory, a fleeting comfort, a reminder that God is near, but not always visible. The smell of fresh bread wafts through the air, but it only serves as a reminder of the emptiness in her stomach, the ache in her heart, and the desperation in her prayers. As you walk alongside her, you notice the way the sunlight filters through the narrow alleys, casting long shadows across the ground. The sound of hammering on metal, the smell of freshly cut wood, and the taste of dust in the air all combine to create a sense of chaos and uncertainty. The city is a complex web of relationships, a delicate balance of power and privilege, and the woman is just one thread in this intricate tapestry. And yet, amidst the turmoil, you sense a deeper longing, a yearning for something more, a sense that there's more to life than just survival. The woman's eyes seem to hold a spark of hope, a glimmer of faith that refuses to be extinguished, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way forward. You begin to realize that her story is not just about survival, but about the pursuit of a dream that seems impossible in the midst of such hardship. You wonder, what would you do if you were in her place? Would you hold on to hope, or would you let despair take over? As you watch her, you notice the way she interacts with the people around her, the way she smiles, the way she laughs, and the way she cries. You sense the depth of her emotions, the complexity of her relationships, and the richness of her inner world. You begin to realize that her story is not just about external circumstances, but about the internal struggle to trust in the unseen purposes of God. You start to wonder, what is the state of your own heart? Are you struggling to trust in the unseen purposes of God, or are you standing firm, like a rock, unshakable in your faith? A messenger bursts into the city, his face flushed with urgency. He's carrying a scroll, sealed with the mark of the king, a symbol of power and authority. The woman's heart skips a beat as he approaches her, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that makes her feel like she's the only person in the world. The scroll is unrolled, and the words dance before her eyes. The king has decreed that all widows shall receive a portion of the land, a chance to start anew, 2 Kings 8 verse 6. The woman's heart soars, and for a moment, she feels like she's walking on air, like the weight of her responsibilities has been lifted, like the sun has broken through the clouds. But as she looks around, she realizes that not everyone is rejoicing. Some are angry, others are skeptical, and a few are downright hostile. The woman's joy is tempered by the knowledge that this gift comes with a price that will require her to trust in the unseen purposes of God. As she stands there, the scroll still clutched in her hand, you feel the weight of her decision. She can choose to trust in the king's decree, to believe that this is the start of something new, something better. Or she can let fear and doubt creep in, whispering that this is just another cruel trick, another disappointment waiting to happen. The air is thick with tension, the outcome hanging precariously in the balance. You sense the woman's inner turmoil, her struggle to discern the voice of God amidst the chaos. And you begin to wonder, what would you do in her place? Would you trust in the unseen purposes of God, or would you let fear and doubt hold you back? You feel a sense of empathy, a sense of connection to her struggle, and you begin to realize that her story is not just about her, but about you, about your own struggles, and your own doubts. As you watch her, you notice the way she looks at the scroll, the way she reads the words, and the way she responds to the message. You sense the depth of her emotions, the complexity of her thoughts, and the richness of her inner world. You begin to realize that her story is not just about external circumstances, but about the internal struggle to trust in the unseen purposes of God. You start to wonder, what is the state of your own heart? Are you struggling to trust in the unseen purposes of God, or are you standing firm, like a rock, unshakable in your faith? The woman's heart is racing, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She feels like she's standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss, with no safety net to catch her if she falls. The fear of the unknown is suffocating, making it hard to breathe, like a weight is pressing down on her chest. She thinks back to all the times she's cried out to God, all the times she's felt like she's been ignored, like her prayers have been met with silence. The words of the prophet echo in her mind, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord," Isaiah 55 verse 8. But in this moment, those words feel like a cruel joke, a reminder that God is distant, unresponsive, like a distant echo that's fading away. The woman's eyes well up with tears as she wonders if she's just a pawn in a much larger game, a game she doesn't understand, a game that's being played out in the heavens. As she stands there, the darkness closing in around her, you sense the depth of her desperation. She's crying out to God, pleading for a glimpse of hope, a glimmer of light in the darkness, like a lifeline that's being thrown to her in the midst of a storm. The words of the psalmist echo in her mind. "Why, O Lord, do you stand far away? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble?" Psalm 10 verse 1. The woman's heart is raw, her emotions exposed, like an open wound that's bleeding, and you feel the weight of her vulnerability. You begin to realize that her story is not just about external circumstances, but about the internal struggle to trust in the unseen purposes of God. And you start to wonder, what is the state of your own heart? Are you struggling to trust in the unseen purposes of God, or are you standing firm, like a rock, unshakable in your faith? You feel a sense of connection to her struggle, a sense of empathy, and you begin to realize that her story is not just about her, but about you, about your own struggles, and your own doubts. As you watch her, you notice the way she moves, the way she breathes, and the way she responds to the world around her. You sense the depth of her emotions, the complexity of her thoughts, and the richness of her inner world. You begin to realize that her story is not just about external circumstances, but about the internal struggle to trust in the unseen purposes of God. You start to wonder, what is the state of your own heart? Are you struggling to trust in the unseen purposes of God, or are you standing firm, like a rock, unshakable in your faith? You feel a sense of wonder, a sense of awe, as you consider the possibility that God has been working in your life all along, even when you couldn't see it. You're standing at the edge of a new understanding, a place where the comfortable familiarity of your old life is about to give way to the uncertainty of a new path. It's here that you encounter the words of Isaiah 43 verse 19, "Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth, do you not perceive it?"